Legend Joe, good day. How you doing today?
I'm okay. Alhamdulillah.
I'm very sure you're active on social media
I try to be.
and you must have seen what's dominating the social media right now. It's the insecurity in Nigeria, especially in your state. What are your reflections on this topic?
You see, I have always emphasized that insecurity is a very, very sensitive topic. One, given a choice, I would like to avoid discussing at all. But we are patriotic citizens. We have a duty to use our informed position to shed some light in certain dark areas in this conversation or any other conversation for that matter. So, insecurity, as I have mentioned, in the past week or two, has dominated the social media truly, the conversations around it, that is, and rightly so. And for me, it is quite emotional. I've been reading different perspectives, but first of all, I want to, in all unequivocal terms, state that it's an emotional subject. As a parent myself, I cannot begin to imagine the agony the parents of these children, these affected children, are currently in. My child among them, for example. The harsh atmospheric conditions these children are subjected to, the gory sights the eyes may have beheld, and even the state of trauma and uncertainty of their parents at this moment. Words cannot quantify the pain. So we say we acknowledge that in no small measure. And those that have contributed, our constitution, section 14, subsection 2 is clear. The primary role of government is to secure the lives and properties of its citizens. The moment a government is voted in the in a democratic setting such as ours, even if it's military, that you emerge by coup, the moment you emerge as leaders, the citizens are automatically abdicated their sovereignty to you, saying, look, our security, our lives, the safety of our properties and what have you, we have donated to because, the citizens are not expected to tackle crime, correct? So if you heap the blame on government, you are within your rights and you have every right to do so. But when we develop or fleshing out conversations such as this, our role is also to put matters in the appropriate context. And the context here is to say, okay, how did we get here? The wise ones will say, if you do not to properly determine where you are going to, you must examine where you are coming from. Many times, the yesterday plays a crucial role in your today. And your today is investing in what your tomorrow will become. So how did we get here? We got here as a result of generations of leadership complacency. You see, we are a nation that, while I was growing up, our parents never believed that a day will come where a Nigerian will wrap himself up with explosives and say he's a suicide bomber. We lived with a culture of Nigerians like enjoyment. They like their lives. when suicide rate was rising in other nations, we don't commit suicide here. In the midst of your tribulations, your trials, there's always an hopeful energy that tomorrow there will be light at the end of the tunnel. So we want to go to parties, we want to eat pepper soup, we want to flex, we want to enjoy within the little successes we may have achieved. An average Nigerian is believed he just wants to enjoy life. So the insecurity, the architecture of this insecurity was building up, and our leaders took it for granted, saying, Nigeria is not Pakistan. Nigeria is not Afghanistan. You see, we never believed, our leaders especially, never believed we will one day be enveloped in terror and merged in this kind of violent conduct. Therefore, they never nipped it in bud. The Yorubas will say, you must begin to attend to Iroko from its root stage. Because when that tree matures, it will begin to demand sacrifice. Another variant of that proverb says, it will be impossible for you to conquer. Our insecurity Iroko tree was not attended to at its root stage. It's demanding now our blood for sacrifice, becoming almost impossible to conquer. Boko Haram, which has now become a legacy terror group, started in 2006, OBJ era. And when OBJ was ravaging Odi, when he was grounding Zaki Biam, he left that group to continue to nurture itself to maturity. And in 2010, thereabouts, our government at the time eliminated their leader, Yusuf, extrajudicially. And the group, in search for reprisal or revenge, became a terror and had since held the nation hostage. You will recall in 2014, when the Boko Haram terrorist group abducted the Chibok girls, the first reaction of government was denial. It cannot happen. It's a lie. It's propaganda. For days, the government never raised any move in attempt of recovering those children. Why? Because at first, they thought it was not impossible for such to happen in Nigeria. I'm speaking of our history, our culture as a nation, of accepting that Nigeria is somehow immune, or Nigeria is insulated from the terror that was coming at the time. That is the background. And I've said this background to establish that our friends in the medical field, if you have doctors as friends, they will tell you that cancer, for example, using cancer because it's becoming an epidemic now. They say it's easier treated when it's detected early enough. They tell you cancer at stage 1 can easily be managed. But when you sleep or you diagnose late enough and it gets to stage 4, not many recovers from it. It becomes more difficult to manage. Many times, at that point, doctors are trying to give you a memorable departure. Correct? And at that time, your money is immaterial. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, died of cancer. I think leukemia. He was a billionaire. At that time, your age is immaterial. They are young that have expired from cancer. South Sultan counted among them. Our insecurity challenge has unfortunately matured It was diagnosed late, the treatment was inadequate, and has now matured to an extent where it is demanding a whole lot to manage. The Oyo abduction. The Oyo adoption is peculiar because it's close to home. Sometimes when you hear of this gory incident far away, you may be detached from the reality until it begins to knock at your doorstep. When it happened in Kwara, we knew it's becoming concerning for those of us in the Southwest. Now, this is where we have to apply caution. Because when people say insecurity is everybody's business, the government and the governed, the leaders and the led, it is not with the assumption that we expect citizens to run after insurgents. No, it's to the extent, to the degree that we expect that everybody must be invested so much that what concerns us at this time is one, recovery of our abductees, our brothers and sisters in their den, and possible elimination of the criminals. It is not a window for emergency activists. It is not an opportunity for performative sympathizers. It is not a time where pretentious mourners will emerge and think they have finally seen an opportunity, some of them to revive dead careers. And it is definitely not a time for ever-hungry political vultures who seek to harvest fortune from our collective tears. I have seen it. Many of them that are now crying very loudly. Sometimes in a funeral, watch out for those whose cries are louder or are loudest. Many of them are not related to the dead. When, for the years, IPOB and UGM, unknown gunmen, terrorized Southeast zones, ask them, where were their voice or their voices? IPOB and UGM, for years, non-state actors, armed militias, dominated the Southeast, declared Monday sit at home, mandatory, compulsory sit at home in the entire zone. Markets couldn't open, businesses couldn't function, billions were lost. People lost their livelihood for that. Ask them, what was their reaction? At the time, Igbos, who are very big and heavy on cultural values, whereby weddings, burials are expected to be held back home, just like largely like the Yorubas too. But Igbos pay a lot of premium on burials in particular. Come and bury you. Because it's ancestral land. Many had to bury their dead in Lagos. Ask them what was their reaction. You will be surprised that many are energized, almost excited, that finally they have something to get at this government. The economy had been picking up. There are many wins of this government that even their candidates cannot necessarily tackle or oppose with facts. So they appear to me, many of them celebrities, those we know to have been quiet and mute, where even worse situations have happened elsewhere, for the fear of attacks from their supposed fans, are now very loud now. This is why it is concerning. It is concerning. Yorubas will say, be careful not to forgo treating leprosy in the pursuit of a ringworm. NSAS protests. For years, that police unit called the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, truly, some of them have been engaged in gross misconduct and abuse of power. for years. Now, 2020, that particular incident that triggered the unrest happened in Delta. It was Lagos that was burning. The guy that was humiliated, assaulted, I think he was driving a white vehicle. That incident was in Delta. You know how far you travel before you get to Lagos? Now, Delta was peaceful, but Lagos almost burned to the ground. We all witnessed it. Sanwo-Olu, the Lagos State governor, was at the time the only high-profile politician that joined them in the protest. Correct? He received their request, and in their very before, flew to Abuja to Buhari, submitted. Government of the day, at both the states, Lagos State now, and federal level, were more than willing to heed the demands of the protesters. Then they said 5 for 5. The federal government called for, okay, let us examine your lists and let's see how fast we can begin to act upon your requests. You see, even in war, there is always room whereby both parties will cease fire and then have a conversation on possible resolution. The US-Iran war, for example, you know how many times they have ceased fire? Let's discuss. If terms are agreeable, we quit entirely. If not, we resume. And they could have actually ended the war. If not, we know why. So, I do not want us to establish an impression or an illusion that nothing is of significance enough until it happens in the Southwest. Insecurity in some parts of the North had been there before independence. I cited the case of Southeast with the IPOB. But somehow it was until it got here that everybody now then became overnight activists. Some of them put up camera, whip on camera, then the following day you see them at parties dancing. Who are you deceiving? I say, as a nation, we must be conscious enough. Southwest is the hub, headquarters of entertainment. So everybody sees opportunity in anything, including tragedy. You set up camera, and then the following day you are in a cinema doing meet and greet dancing. Some of them twerking after weeping hours prior. We want a nation where everyone is invested in ensuring, because when they're saying security is everybody's business, that is what they are pointing to. First of all, citizens must be responsible enough to see that, okay, they report suspicious movements within their society. They must also be responsible enough, be conscious enough, be conscientious enough to ensure that they do not contribute to the promotion of fake news, inciting news. You know how many times you have seen content on social media raising false alarm? I think one said that the terrorists are now in my school. There was one who confessed that he was trying to gain traction and attract views to his TikTok account. Therefore, he raised false alarm. And maybe this is also a call to our security agencies. We should be able to, such alarms should ordinarily trigger security agencies to say, okay, is there a new hotspot? And then they mobilize their force there. But when you begin to create this false alarm, how do we know when the alarms are genuine? Now, these are citizens doing this. This or your incident, there are many contents that have been released to trigger emotions or trigger or provoke the anger of the people. Contents that are not that were not gathered from the Oyo incident. Some are not even from Nigeria at all. We've seen content from Nigeria, content from Benin, and then you promote it as though these are current and relevant contents. Now, who benefits from these acts of gross irresponsibility by citizens? The criminals. Because now you are giving the security agencies false leads, wrong leads. Should they follow that tracks, they will arrive at nowhere. Now, our already thin security forces are then given unproductive assignments. Do you get the drift? Now, what has the government done thus far? I think immediately the situation happened, the government, the IG visited the location, not just for commiseration or condolence, but also for fact finding, and operational moves towards recovery. And only 2 days ago, federal government also raised the I delegation, I think led by the chief of staff, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, the NSA, the Minister of Defense, the spokesperson of government to the place for further, and you can see even from videos, original videos from the camp of the kidnappers, you can see that it is no doubt that the government or our security forces know the exact location. You can see one of the victims, the woman, actually pleading that the government do not approach rashly, because the government has most likely have located the position and may have even surrounded it. However, like I always say, that a fly that lands on the scrotum must be handled with care. Less what we kill is more than the fly. When we might not be security experts, but we watch movies, and movies like Money Heist are taught us once citizens have been held hostage, once lives are held in balance, you must approach such situation with utmost care. At that time, eliminating the terrorists cannot be a priority. It is recovering your own citizens. Ale, hearty, and in one piece. That will be the priority at the time. So, we have established that our government is not sleeping. They are aware. They have moved towards the terrorists. And there are even news that some of them have been arrested, apprehended, and them in custody would also aid to intelligence gathering and perhaps negotiation arrangements. Now, 3, which was the major takeaway from the visit by the delegation from the federal government. The federal government have now said, okay, look, there will be 1,000 forest guards, introduction of 1,000 forest guards, I believe, per location or per state. Now, speaking of insecurity being everybody's business, since that information was released, you need to see how it has been managed or how it has been received by our fellow citizens. Many of them think forest guards they're hunters trying to chase bush rats. You see, the size of our forests in Nigeria, forest alone, is bigger than some countries. I think we have about 211,000 square kilometers of forest. Senegal is 197,000 kilometers square. Meaning our forest alone is bigger than the entire Senegal. Now, this forest population we speak of is bigger than Lagos, Ogun State, Osun, Ekiti, Oyo, Ondo, the entire states in Southwest combined. Now, it is not only the size that bothers. It is also the distribution of the forest. Because these forests, are not in one location. You will see the vast forest of the Northwest, areas that cover Zamfara, Kaduna, Katsina, Kebbi. Then you speak about the Sambisa and adjoining forests of the Northeast. Then we speak about the Middle East forest belt. Uh, this North Central, the Middle Belt, forest belt. Then we speak about the rainforests of Southwest. Then the dense tropical forests of the South-South, the areas like Cross River and the likes. These forests are largely ungoverned. They are remote and they connect across state borders. Now, any country with peculiar challenges such as this, that borders on is ungoverned spaces within those forests, have at one point or the other also instituted what Tinubu is now introducing, forest guard. Meanwhile, whatever Tinubu is introducing now, it has now got to the implementation stage. It was in the manifesto. So to speak to you that these are not things that are being thought of on the go, let me just say something so that the people will think we are working. No, it was in the manifesto. We agree in this nation that our nation is largely under-policed. The entire security force is less than 500,000 in this country, trying to police 250 million citizens. So introduction of forest guard to specifically focus on criminal activities within the ungoverned spaces in the forest is not just commendable or applaudable, it's more than necessary. And if you are not knowledgeable enough about the subject, do not also pollute, do not corrupt the space with your ignorance. When people are saying forest guard, Tinubu, wow, they think we're talking of hunters. They think you're talking of even if they're vigilantes. These are forest guards that will be harmed. And there's an equivalent of it in USA, which they call the United States Forest Service Law Enforcement Officers and Rangers. Is to tackle activities around to enforce the laws and investigate crimes that must have happened around the forest boundaries. We also have it in France, I believe. We have it in India. In India, it's called the Indian Forest Service and State Forest Guards. When you have nations with such hugely or large expanse of forest forest space, such may be introduced to curtail activities that occur because their training will be specific towards that axis. Like I mentioned, our forest size is 211,000 square kilometers. That is twice the size of South Korea, which is 100,000 kilometers square. So, in summary, the government must continue to double their efforts. Within the week, I will be perhaps one of the, aside the parents and friends and family of the victims, I will be one of the most joyous to see that those children return alive and in one piece. And I believe that is our priority at this point. So we do not condemn people who blame governments. We only try to contextualize this and ensure that in your critiquing the government about the insecurity situation, you are not trying actually to first of all worsen the situation or block political capital from a national tragedy. And if by the manner of closing, we have also seen that in the ADC, for example, one of the chieftains of that party had accused their candidates to be possible sponsor of these terrorist activities. The USA have since identified some of their possible alleged kingpins, and some of them are in the opposition today. I'm just speaking to the fact that we have only one nation, and the ambitions or aspirations of any politician cannot override the collective survival of the citizens and the people of the nation. We shouldn't burn down this nation because we are desperate to lead it. That is really my plea to everybody. We know of the strategy of terror. It was a study confirmed that there are situations where political forces sponsor unrest within the society to manipulate the political decisions of the people. We hope that is not what is happening here.